Welcome to the Fourth Branch program. Glad you can make it. I am MD. This program is dedicated exclusively for those with common sense, a spirit of patriotism, and a determination for a more perfect union. Stay tuned as we begin the discussion of a very important, interesting, and enlightening topic. Hope to hear from you soon. Happy listening. The highest form of ignorance is when you reject something that you don't know anything or much about. John F. Kennedy said, "The ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of us all." Hello everyone, I am MD and this is the Fourth Branch program. First, a warning. This program is not suitable for all audiences. I repeat, the content of this program is not for everyone. To find out if it's suitable to you, answer the following two questions. 1. Would you entrust your teenage daughter to a known rapist? Question number 2. Would you have a known pedophile cared for your toddler? Once again, question number 1, would you entrust your teenage daughter to a known rapist? And question number 2, would you have a known pedophile cared for your toddler? Your time is up, obviously. If you had difficulty answering either question, this program is not for you. If you answer yes to either or to both questions, this program is definitely not for you. But if your answers to both questions are absolutely not, this program is catered to you. You should stick around. It is enlightening, informative, and educational. We'll be right back. We have been talking about the big divide in the country. We had 4 videos for a total of 4 hours, which are located on the People Branch YouTube channel, which also provide a lot of information about the factor number one, which caused the big divide in the country. Just to recap, there are three factors: the elected officials, the constituents, and the ambivalence in the media. We already discussed at length the elected official, and it is not a misprint, it is not an assumption, it is not speculation. We provided examples, plenty of examples, several examples as to the state of affair when it comes to the elected official. The governors, the mayors, the congressmen, the senators, they all responsible for at least 70 to 80% of the big divide in the country. So we're not going to tackle that tonight. We will be talking a tad bit about the second bulleted point, which is the constituents. Contrary to popular belief, contrary to popular misconception, the big divide that has been talked about so much in the media, used a lot by politicians, and believed by most individuals, falls squarely on the shoulders of the elected officials. That is, the very individuals we, the people, elected to work on our behalf, to represent our views, to implement policies which reflect our views, and to compromise whenever and wherever it is necessary to advance the affairs of the people. Contrary to the widespread misconception that the big divide is between constituents of the two major parties, our research here at the Fourth Branch found the startling fact: the big divide resides mostly among the elected official, and they are at the roots of spreading the problem among the constituents. No, this is not a misprint. This is not a misread. In the past 3 episodes, we discussed at length this very topic. At the top of the discussion, especially in episode 1, we mentioned there are 3 major factors which are at the roots of the big divides in the country, which we just mentioned a few minutes ago: the elected officials, the constituents, and the ambivalence in the media. Today, we propose to discuss bulleted point number 2, the constituent. But before we proceed with the discussion, let's ask the most obvious question: why does it matter? Why does it matter at all that there is a big divide in the country? It has been like that for quite some time now. For decades, we've been talking about it. We mention it. It becomes almost part of our lives. So why would it matter that there is a big divide in the country? Would we not miss it if it is no longer? Well, the very expression itself suggests it is not something anyone would look forward to. Obviously, it cannot be good. Any sound-minded individual would want to move away from something that is bad, don't you agree? We know instinctively, intuitively, that a big divide among the constituents cannot certainly be good for the country. Now we know the factors, we know what's causing it. We've been discussing at least the first one. As we are embarking to discuss the bulleted point number 2, it is of great importance that you follow very closely. Although the elected officials are responsible for most of the big divide in the country, the constituents do share responsibility. Stay with me for a moment. We'll be right back to talk about the share of responsibility the constituents bear in the big divide that plague the country. A big divide, as mentioned earlier, is not something any sound-minded individual would look forward to. Group number 2, the constituent, represent only a fraction of the problem, less than 20%. Actually, it could be less than 15% because at the very least 5 to 7% of the problem in the big divide is caused by the ambivalence in the media. So individuals in this group, because they are loud, they are voiceful, they make a lot of noise, they are emotional, it gives the impression that they are in the majority. However, as mentioned earlier, the majority of the problem is on the shoulders of the elected official. With the constituent, it is very complicated, and here's the reason. There are Democrats, there are Republicans, and there are also those who fall anywhere in between. Culture, belief, lifestyle, level of education, level of understanding, rationale, logic, or even lack of that, contribute a great deal to the complexity of the problem. The Republicans are the easiest to explain. You see, in matters related to life, in life-related matters, that is, they are very simple-minded individuals. Oh, yes, you heard correctly. Republicans are very simple-minded individuals. Hey, don't kill the messenger. Explanation will be forthcoming shortly. Republicans are, for the most part, unable to process complex life-related matters, which might help to explain why organizations such as Fox, Breitbart, InfoWars, Rush Limbaugh, and the likes are able to build a fortune on the back of the Republicans, or at the very least of their ignorance. They are indeed, for the most part, ignorant of sort, irrespective of their level of education. The Democrats, on the other hand, are not so easy to explain. They comprise individuals of various beliefs, understanding, different level of emotions, and of course, Democrats are more community, society-driven groups. They don't just see their neighbors, they identify with their neighbors. Democrats have a high degree of apathy, and they prefer rationale over simple words. And the independent comprise individuals who are either more GOP-leaning and others are more Democrat-leaning. And despite such, the independents are really very clear-cut, as the GOP are. You see, those who are more GOP-leaning are inclined to process information just like the GOP, and those who are Democrat-leaning are also more inclined to act like the Democrats. And for that reason, we will not discuss independents separately. Besides, studies suggest those who are leaning one way or the other are statistically aligned with the group they are more closely aligned with. When we return, we will discuss the factors which cause GOP to be so simple-minded in life-related matters in general, politics in particular. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Join me here on the 4th branch at 10:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. every Saturday. before we delve into the scientific aspect, which provide plenty of detail to explain why most Republicans are simple-minded, let's provide a couple of examples to illustrate some of the points, and we will come back to take a look at the scientific analysis of the topic. During the 2016 presidential election, it was very easy to identify Democrat and Republican irrespective of where you would meet such individuals. You might recall that a lot of Republicans, leaders, and constituents alike were disgusted, at least publicly, also they say, by Trump's style, statement, and so forth. And despite the fact his behavior, his language stayed the same, most of those GOP went to the poll and voted for Donald Trump anyway. On the other hand, most people who supported Bernie Sanders, they are considered Democrat, decided to stay home. The final tally, according to record, suggests that at least 20 million Bernie fans and other Democrats did not even participate in the election, rather than to vote for Hillary Clinton. As mentioned in the previous segment, Republicans are indeed simple-minded, and Democrats are very complex. And there is a reason for that. It could be to no fault of theirs. We'll be right back. In 1996, a small network by the name of Fox News was launched with just 17 million viewers. Today, with over 100 million people watching regularly, Fox has become the greatest threat to our democracy, constantly bombarding the airwaves with false information, distortion of facts, and outright lies, presenting to its audience as news. Fox has created an army of blissful ignorance. According to a recent survey, 82% of Fox viewers are ignorant of facts and the truth. To keep millions of people in ignorance not only prevents democracy from flourishing, but it also clears the path to authoritarianism, to dictatorship. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Let me finish by saying that democracy cannot survive in an environment where truth and facts do not matter. At Fox, truth and facts do not matter. Indeed, democracy in America is in jeopardy. It is a crisis the country can no longer ignore. Why does it matter that Republicans are simple-minded? Or is it even so? We are talking about the big divide in the country. the two topics are closely related, as you will see shortly. In 2010, there was an article written in the Time magazine according to a study made, and the question was, are liberals smarter than conservatives? As you know, here in the United States, Democrats are mostly referred to as liberals, and Republicans are mostly referred to as conservative. It is in part a very small excerpt of the article, and we will come back to provide scientific evidence to that effect. The notion that liberals are smarter than conservatives is very familiar to anyone who has spent time on a college campus. The college Democrats are said to be ugly, smug, intellectual, and the college Republicans pretty, belligerent, and dumb. There is enough truth in both stereotypes that the vast majority of college students opt not to join either club. But the question is, are liberals actually smarter? A libertarian researcher by the name of Satoshi Kanazawa of the London School of Economics and Political Science has just written a paper that is set to be published by the journal Social Psychology Quarterly. In that paper, he investigates not only whether conservatives are dumber than liberals, but also why that might be. The short answer is yes, Republicans are dumber than Democrats. And Kanazawa paper shows that more intelligent people are more likely to say they are liberal. Now, there is a reason for that, and it is no fault of either side. Republicans are not dumber than Democrats because they have less education, and we know that. We have Republicans who are scientists, Republicans who have actually been in various aspects in the world, very successful, whether it's business, in education, or what have you. So how could it be possible that there is such a blanket statement that Republicans are dumber than Democrats? Well, there is a caveat. In life-related matter, Republicans are found to be dumber than Democrats. What does that mean exactly? Well, first, we will take a look at a couple of examples and come back with the scientific proof that indeed Republicans are much dumber than Democrats. And is there a way to change that, or is it even possible to change that? When we return. Join me here on the fourth branch at 10:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. every Saturday. You see, in life-related matters, in general, and in politics in particular, Republicans have a very difficult time processing complex information. And it's not just scientifically proven, as we will show you shortly, but in interaction with Republicans, it is very easy to see that. As a matter of fact, Roger Ailes from Fox had capitalized on that very fact. It is very difficult, for whatever reason, the Republican constituent, they don't have the ability to process complex information. Black is black, white is white, and that's the way Republicans see everything. Straight is good, gay is bad. White is good, black is bad. American is good, outsider is bad. Money is good, poor is bad. Gun is good, criminal is bad. That's the way Republicans see everything. There is nothing in between. Democrats, on the other hand, as it is proven, usually see shades of. A Democrat would see black, shade of blacks, and so on until it gets to the gray part and until it gets to the other side of the color spectrum. And there is no such ability in the Republican cycle, in the Republican circle, to process that type of information. I didn't make it. It so happened to be such. The question is why? Now, if you watch Fox or you read publications such as Breitbart, InfoWars, listen to other Republican pundits, you would notice that they capitalize a lot on that very fact. Criminals are bad, supposed to be put away. And that's what they do. And there is no in between. If you remember at the time when doing drugs is bad, and everybody picked up doing drugs usually was blacks, minority. Today, a different aspect of the problem is being resolved mostly by the Democrat legislators, Democrat Department of Justice, and the trends start changing. Now, it is opioid. It is an issue, and everybody has to attend to. It is the exact same problem that's been around, except for one thing. In the past, it used to be everybody who does drug is bad, and it so happened to be, well, blacks caught. So Republicans have no way, no ability whatsoever to process information. That's why when you listen to Fox, Breitbart, and so on, they are able to rally a very large group of Republicans behind them. That's why no matter what Donald Trump does, you would be hard-pressed to find out everybody moves away from them, because they can only process one piece of information. It has to be simple. And Donald Trump speaks that language. Very simple language. Mexicans are bad. Mexicans are rapists. And so on. And to Republicans, that's the only thing that matters. And they don't care about the detail in between. Of course, it sounds that they don't care. It's because that they are unable to process complex information. And the question is why? Why are Republicans in such dilemma? Now, the study that I mentioned earlier, that's done by Kanazawa, happened to have found something very startling. What you're looking at is a picture of brains. One Republican, one Democrat. Republicans, as found out by the study, process information with the right side of the brain, called their right amygdala. And that side of the brain happen to process emotion, those type of situations. So if you say that someone is a criminal, there is no process of information by that individual except that stay away from me, keep that individual away from me. There is no asking what exactly did that person do. Is that person violent? What did the person kill someone? Did the person do something bad? What did the person do? There is no middle ground, because the emotional aspect is that person is a criminal, and that's all you need to say. And that's why places like Fox capitalize on this very limitation in the Republican circle. The Whether they are aware of it or not is a different story. But the fact that they capitalize on fear. If you remember during Obamacare, grandma is going to be killed by the death panel. The Obamacare is going to kill jobs. It is bad for the country. So stay away from that. Grandma is going to be killed by Obamacare, so we don't want Obamacare. It's going to cost jobs to the nation. We don't want that. Obamacare is going to end and going to fall and so on because it cannot survive. Well, I want to stay away from that. There is no ability for Republicans to process complex information. And those life-related matters are very complex information. As if Mother Nature has a sense of humor. Democrat, on the other hand, process information with the left posterior insula of the brain, left postular, so to speak, in simple terms. What does that mean? That they use logic, they use rationale. So if you say someone is a criminal, Democrats would usually go into the process of finding out where does that person fit in. Did the person steal something? Did the person kill someone? Did the person fight? What exactly happened? How many times did that happen? And so on and so forth. Republicans, on the other hand, do not have the ability to process those complex information. So in life-related matters in general, Republicans are indeed dumber than Democrats. And why is that important to know? It's because it impacts the very question that we're studying today, the big divide in the country. What does that mean? That means that if you are interacting with a Republican, it is almost a sure bet that you're not going to get anywhere. Because if that individual already take a stand on something, because that individual already determined that something is bad, there is no amount of logic that can get that individual, if he or she is a Republican, to change his or her mind. Because as far as he or she is concerned, we're talking about something that's bad, and I want to stay away from that as much as possible. No matter what you say, it's totally irrelevant. So you see the big divide among the constituent. It's not that it's a problem that cannot be solved, but it's a problem that also amplified by places such as Fox, because they become wealthy, they make a living out of making certain that those Republican constituents, stay exactly where they're at, unable to process complex information. It benefits them to the detriment of the country, obviously, but as far as they're concerned, it doesn't matter. They just do not care. Now, that point about the Fox is the third bulleted point we will talk about at some other point, at some other time. But it is necessary to understand the factors that contribute to the big divide in the country, because it's obvious that the very expression big divide is not something that's good for the country. We have been talking about it for decades now. One side blames the other. Republicans point fingers at the Democrat. Democrats point fingers at Republicans. But no one seems to go beyond the finger pointing to find out what's causing the problem. As mentioned in the previous 4 videos, and mentioned several times to you here, that these videos provide several different examples of how the elected officials are mostly responsible for 70 to 80% of the big divide problem in the country. The other 20% are shared between the constituent and the media. So the problem can indeed be resolved because we have finally identified where it comes from. It is a problem that we don't really want to live with because it is not good for the country. As time goes by, as it is probably very obvious to people who have been around a while that the problem has gotten from bad to worse. And that's why today we're exactly where we're at. We have a strong economy. Everybody seems to be doing just great, just fine. And yet, we are not happy with the way things are in the country. You may recall that usually elections are decided based on how well or how bad the country is doing. But today, that's not the case. If that were to be the case, there is a pretty good chance that Republicans would have kept everything that currently things would have stayed as a status quo, because things are doing well. Unfortunately, the big divide has gone from bad to worse. And the reason for that is because up to this point, we have not had an opportunity to identify the factors causing the big divide. Now we know Republicans in general, most Republicans process information with the right amygdala, right part of the brain, which only cater to emotions. And Democrats process information with the left posterior insula of the brain, which process information with logic, with rationale. Try to understand, not just say black is black and that's the end of the story. This is the turf of the Republican. Black is black, there is nothing in between. So now we know where the problem comes from. Now, look at, for instance, how the reaction, you're going to see the reaction of two different groups in terms of a win. Now, on one hand, you have, for instance, in this picture you're looking at on the left, on the right side of the screen, you're looking at a reaction to Trump win 2016, when Trump won the presidency. Take a good look at the top picture on the right and the top picture on the left. On the left, of course, it's the reaction of Obama's fan when he won in 2009. See any difference between the two groups? Can you spot the difference? It is without doubt that indeed the study made by Kanazawa had pinpointed the very problem that we have been talking about for so long in the United States, but never could figure out exactly what's causing it. But despite that, it is important to know that the constituents represent only 20%, less than 20% of the problem. In other words, if we could solve the problem that currently reside with the elected officials, today it is squarely on the shoulders of the Republican. For the past 8 years, Republicans have been in total control of the legislative branch, and the past 2 years of all branches of the government. And yet, we have a problem that's pretty much a palpable problem in the country. So if you hear Republican legislators, elected officials pointing fingers to Democrats, it's only because they have mastered the idea of scaring the constituent, of tapping to the right amygdala of the constituent who fears anything that's bad. So they tell you Democrats are obstructionists. And my answers to all that, after you look at, for 8 years, Republicans have been in control. Now, for the past 2 years, all branches of the government are in the hands of the Republicans. But see what they did. Republicans elected officials are not working to unite the country, to mend the country, because everything that they have been doing for the past 8 years have been going against the wishes of the majority. Look at what happened with, for instance, Obamacare. Most people in the country favor that healthcare, because who would not? A healthcare that protects you against pre-existing conditions, a healthcare that lets you cover your children up to 26 years of age, a healthcare that remove all cap that insurance company would put if you fall sick. Why would you not want that? And yet, the elected official, Republican elected official, keep drumming the beat. It is bad for you. Remember when they talk about the death panel? That's why they want to scare their constituent, because they want to capitalize on the fact that Republican constituent cannot process complex information. All they have to say is Obamacare is going to kill your parents, your grandparents. That's all they need to say, amplified by Fox. And suddenly you have a number of Republicans opposing the healthcare, despite the very fact that it would be good for them. They pass a tax cut, $1.5 trillion tax cut. That's 60%. The majority opposed, and yet they did. So Republican elected officials are not working to unite the country. Their job, it seems, is to divide the country. And they are, as mentioned, according to our research, are 70% responsible of the problem of the big divide in the country. When we return, we'll talk about very lightly about the third aspect of the problem, which is the media. And it's not because the media went out of its way to make that happen. It so happened that the individual work for any news organizations, they are humans too. I'll be right back. Join me here on the fourth branch at 10:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. every Saturday. So the problem of the big divide, as it is in every aspect of anything that's being done, if the source of the problem is fixed, there is a very great likelihood the problem will go away. Yes, we know that the constituent, Democrat and Republicans, they have some work to do. It seems almost as if the big divide is among the constituent. In effect, it is not. 70% to 80% of the problem are caused by the elected official. The people we elect to solve problems are the ones at the roots of the problem. Governors, mayors, congressmen, senators are the one causing the problem. And they're not doing it because they see some other bigger vision for the country. They do it only to satisfy their own personal agenda. You see, the country is not divided between Democrats and Republicans, but rather between those who seek knowledge and those who choose to live in ignorance. The country is not divided between Democrats and Republicans, rather between those who seek the truth and wisdom and those who promote and enjoy falsehood. Those who make use of their brains and those who have literally outsourced theirs. The country is in dire need of a leader who knows the way, shows the way, and is willing to go all the way. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. I hope you enjoy the program and hoping that you drop us a line. Let us know what you think. Your comments, criticism would be welcome in order to improve this program. This is the fourth branch. The only purpose of our existence is to work towards a more perfect union. And it can only be achieved if we remove ignorance out of the picture. And this is the very point of any program on the fourth branch. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whatever that happens to be for you. Hope you can join us next time. The Fourth Branch Podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website, located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.